Hi, my name is John Tigg. I'm the superintendent of schools for Franklin West Supervisory Unions, proudly serving the students of Fletcher, Fairfax, and Georgia. This is the final budget in our series of final video in our series of budget videos. This is tax calculation and household impact, starting with just some pictures of our students. So remembering this is why we have a budget so that we can provide for the needs of our students. So let's get started. So just going to kind of go back to where we were before, that reminder that the budget reflects the goals of the district. So maintaining fiscal responsibility and meeting the needs, using data to understand performance, making sure the facility is well maintained, and attracting, supporting, and retaining high quality student staffing in our school. So all of those are addressed throughout the series of videos. So let's get to the next piece. This we shared last time also, that the total budget is up 4.22%. So $4,861,727. That is largely increases based on the salary, wages, and benefits and secondary tuition. And our decrease is that we don't have a capital fund transfer in this budget, and the library costs are down this year. Our per pupil cost, $12,771.16, is up 3.81%. So just foreshadowing this number, and that number, the ones that show up on the ballot. But let's get to how we get from here to what the actual tax impact is. All right, so here we go. Education spending. So education spending is a different number than the budget. That's the amount that basically we asked the state for to support education in Fletcher. So our education spending is up 2.11%, $4,449,727. Anytime that we increase spending, of course, that's going to potentially increase your taxes. Our pupil count went from 354 to 348. That's down 1.64, and a decrease in your pupil count has an impact where it will increase your taxes. And again, there's the video about long-term weighted average daily membership, which will explain where that 348.42 number comes from. Flashing a bunch in all at once. Education spending per equalized pupil, which is the ed spending divided by the pupil count, gets us to the $12,771.16. That is up 3.81%. So again, told you about that number before. Increased per pupil spending tends to lead towards an increase in taxes. The yield, which is the amount set by the legislature each year to fund the education fund, again, another video you can look back to, is up a little bit from last year. And when the yield goes up, that it has the impact of decreasing taxes. So to get to a tax rate, what we're going to do is we're going to take this equalized spending per pupil, we're going to divide it by the yield and then divide it by the common level of appraisal. Common level of appraisal, 126.33. It's down a little bit from last year. And they're up above 100 because Fletcher was recently reappraised, and the rest of the state hasn't quite caught up with that. So again, if your common level of appraisal goes down, that tends to have an impact of increasing your taxes. So when you take the ed spending per equalized pupil, divide by property yield, divide that answer by the common level of appraisal, you get the tax rate 114.24, which is up about 6-ish cents from last year. So another way to look at that, oh, well, another little detail. The average homeowner's tax would see an increase of $233 to that based on Zillow's estimate of the average house price in Fletcher, $423,236. So information. This is the same information, just in a slightly different format with the operation. So we take our total expenditures, subtract away the offsetting revenue. That's way that the board uses surplus money to or fund balances to pay down sort of the tax rate. So that gets to our ed spending number. Um, Ed spending divided by pupil count gets you to your ed spending per pupil number that's on the ballot. These two numbers here. Divide that by the property yield. That gets you your equalized homestead rate, which is only up just slightly, a little bit above last year's equalized homestead rate. Throw in the common level of appraisal. So dividing 144 by 1.2633 gets us this 1.14 tax rate, which is up again about 5-ish cents from about 5% from last time. So those are the calculations. Just same thing on both slides, just in slightly different format. Here's the impact. Here's what this means. So and we tend to focus on around a $400,000 house, you're going to see a property tax increase of about $220 based on this, based on these calculations. So it's not a lot. It's just what it is. But as you know, it tends to happen, taxes go up in spite of whatever the board can do to try to keep things in check. And again, we're amongst the lowest spending schools in the state. Um, just from history's point of view, going back to FY23, we had a couple of years where taxes actually went down. So what I just said about taxes always going up, not necessarily true in Fletcher. FY25, we had a pretty big jump. FY26 last year, we went down a little bit, and we're proposing about a $220 increase. So the cumulative over the 5 years is about $267, which is about $53 a year. No, we're asking for more than that, but just again, give you that the board does the best they can to keep things in check. And it's challenging. We look over every item, every expense, try to find ways to control costs and limit tax increases. We listen to the school leaders, to staff, to parents, community members, people that show up at board meetings, people that email us, and we try to balance the needs of taxpayers with the needs of the students and staff. It's not easy and does require trade-offs. Um, there's information floating out there in the legislative session that the governor had said that he would potentially put $105 million to buy down the tax rate. We're not sure exactly what that looks like, but we did get information from the budget office that the yield would change with a $75 million transfer. This would be the change in the property values. So again, that $400,000 house in this model would see about a $40 increase. So the governor has said he would put $105,000 in. This is a number based on 75 million. So it's likely that your tax increase might be somewhere, $220 is probably worst case scenario. This is a pretty good scenario, $40. And, if there's more than 75 million ends up actually being transferred, it could be a smaller number than that. So just so you have all the possibilities. So if you're hearing about that in the news, that's how this would impact you. So what you're going to see on the ballot when you go vote is shall the voters of Fletchertown School District approve the school board to expend $4,861,727. That's per pupil spending of $12,771.16, 3.81% higher than per pupil spending. And just be aware this isn't on the ballot, but that, the number that's impacting you is the taxes are expected to increase by 5.06 based on the current yield and the information that we know at this point. You're also going to see on the ballot, shall the voters of the Fletchertown School District authorize the school board to borrow money for school expenses in anticipation of revenue for the ensuing fiscal year. This basically means that on July 1st, we don't have any money and we don't get paid from the state until late September or October, but we still have bills in July and August. And so we borrow money from the bank and we put it into an account that generates interest. We tend to generate as much interest as we pay on the loan, and it just basically tides us over until we get our payment. So it's kind of a net thing, but we do need you to approve that every year, regardless of what the budget outcome is. So please vote. Town meeting day in the Fletchertown office. You can get an absentee ballot anytime you want. And just so you're aware, if we have a successful vote, we can start thinking about the 26-27 school year. If the vote's unsuccessful, we'll have to prepare a budget for a revote and kind of hold off on hiring until we see what we need. So that's, I think, voting information. There it is. Early voting has begun already. The budget information meeting is Monday, February 23rd at about 6:45, right after the town is done. Voting day, as we said, is March 3rd and all day at the town office. This is the last video in the series. Please feel free to go back and watch any of the other ones that you want. Watch this one again if you want. And if you have questions, please reach out to us. We're happy to answer questions. Show up at the information meeting, show up at the school board meeting. But please, make a good choice and make sure that you get out and vote. Thanks for supporting our schools and thanks for listening. Have a good rest of your day.